Welcome to MySecurityTV, our Tech and Sec Weekly. My name is Chris Cubbage. I'm the editor with MySecurity Media, and this is our Friday morning episode. Just checking we're live. Everything looks fine. This morning, we're going to be joined by Anthony Stevens, the founder and CEO of 6clicks. They've just raised $5 million, so we'll find out sort of the 6clicks story and what they're going to do with the money. And then we're going to be crossing to the US, I hope. I haven't seen these guys yet, but they should be logging in soon. Gregg Ostrowski, who is the Regional CTO for Cisco's AppDynamics, and Stephen Elliot, Program Vice President with IDC. So we're going to be looking at their application-led security and then get some AppSec Market Insights from IDC as well. So hopefully they'll sign in and they'll probably interrupt us halfway through. Okay, so just in terms of running through the slides, if I may, and get them up. If you haven't followed us before, we do cover off on a range of different areas, but everything from aerospace and space through to cities and infrastructure. And today will be more around that cybersecurity and critical technology. We should be streaming on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. If you happen to be watching, please press like or let us know wherever you are in the world, and particularly also if you've got any questions on the topics that we're covering, welcome to ask those questions as well, and we'll try and moderate that. These are also being released through our Cybersecurity Weekly podcast, so if you prefer a podcast version, we don't do every episode, but certainly cybersecurity related. Otherwise, you can go to mysec.tv and all of our previous episodes are there. From Tuesday, we had Craig Searle from Trustwave and also Mark Lukey from Barracuda, talking through the SolarWinds vulnerabilities, but Craig also gave us some good sort of market insights from that consulting front line, so to speak, but also with his role with Trustwave and covering the Pacific. And Mark, we looked at bots and their automation and combat detection, and that was also on Safer Internet Day. Speaking of Safer Internet Day, I've scored Julie Inman-Grant will join us on Tuesday, next Tuesday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon here in Sydney, and we'll look at online safety and public awareness and also international trends and what Julie describes as safety by design. And for us in security, we are aware of sort of security by design. So looking forward to that. And then next Friday, I'm putting together a facial recognition episode, and we'll look at the trends and recent advancements in facial recognition. A lot of hype, particularly around the wearing of masks and other types of things and how these systems are performing. But as it happens, we've just done an interview with Genetec and George Moad, the ANZ country manager. So that's available now on YouTube and also on mysec.tv, just looking at Genetec and their outlook for 2021 and a bit of a market update as well. So welcome to check that out. And then also this week, we've released our Seagate and our Skyhawk surveillance hard drives, product reviews and market insights with Jeff Park, Seagate's ANZ country manager also. So look, that's it from the marketplace in terms of what I had. I'll follow up with when we finish this on our report of the day. But let me bring in Anthony Stevens, and founder and CEO of 6clicks. Anthony, thanks for joining us. Thanks, Chris. Great to be on your show. Wonderful. And it was nice and easy to get you on as well. So I appreciate you coming on. $5 million. What are you going to do with it? No, let's start with, there's quite a bit we can cover, really. Let's start with 6clicks, the platform that you've put together. And then now once you're sort of raising sort of that type of money, it sounds like you're ready to expand out.
Yeah, indeed. So we founded 6clicks back in 2019. Our mission was to build a technology platform to help businesses with risk and compliance, particularly around major issues like cybersecurity and privacy. So we did that, but what makes our platform particularly unique is the fact that it's been designed to be used by advisors as well. So we had a fantastic 2020 securing a number of partnerships with, some of the biggest names in town, CyberCX, Pure Security, and a number of others. So obviously we've raised capital now and looking forward to global expansion.
Is this your first raise? Is it like a Series A or is it privately funded?
Yeah, it's privately funded. We raised $2 and a bit million back in July last year. So we sort of saw that as a pre-seed round. So you could call this a large seed round or an early Series A. As you know, there's lots of different ways people describe these things, but so it was privately funded. We were oversubscribed within a week. So fantastic support, and it keeps coming in terms of people interested to invest and get part of what we're doing.
Well, one of the taglines in the media release was "on your way to becoming a unicorn." How sure are you on that, or is that just the PR going? We better add something in there.
I think, look, we see huge amounts of opportunity here and overseas. I think it's, we're proudly Australian-based too, and supporting the innovation sector and export of technology around the world. I think if we continue as we are, we've got every shot, and I think there's those sorts of aspirational goals only have upside in my experience. You might as well shoot for these things, and if you fall a bit short, you're probably doing pretty well too.
Fair call. Well, look, talk us through where 6clicks has come from, because it is a pretty good story considering you only launched in a couple of years ago, 2019. Talk us through the platform, what you're doing, and then there's a bit of AI in here as well.
Yeah, so we, as I said before, we sort of founded the business at the start of 2019. We spent most of the 2019 period in product development, developing out our strategy, looking at the market, working out where we wanted to focus. We launched our product in the market basically around Christmas time 2019, so at the start of 2020. And as we all know, 8 weeks later or 10 weeks later, we were into COVID. And during that period, I think we found ourselves in a position where we really needed to focus, and we focused on the cybersecurity and privacy market as our first big area of focus, and looked and said, who are the largest players, the most successful players, and the highest profile players in that market, and identified, the likes of CyberCX, Pure Security, Trustwave, a number of others. Focused on establishing partnerships with those organizations to help them streamline their service delivery model, but also then provide technology to their clients to help their clients with uplifting cybersecurity themselves. So that proved successful for us ultimately, and those partnerships were secured sort of August, September last year, and from there we've had tons of demand and set up offices in the UK, which has been great, and in the US as well. So,
well, you've come from a top 4 firm, which obviously gave you that market insight, and it sounds like you're very well connected as well. So that's obviously helped you. You already had those relationships moving forward, so they kind of knew what you were doing.
Yeah. I was formerly a partner and chief digital officer at KPMG, and my job there was to think about the intellectual property across the firm locally and globally, and how we would bake that into software as a way to provide innovation to clients. And I guess through that experience, I honed a point of view around saying we need technology like Xero has done for the accounting industry, where businesses use Xero as an accounting system, but they also engage with their accountants to help them in that process on the same platform.
Yeah.
And it became clear to me that we needed something like that for risk and compliance, and helping organisations and advisors shift off, spreadsheets and Word documents and stuff like that. So talk us through how it actually works and how you built it. It's and what platform it's sitting on. Yeah, so we've got a strategic partnership with Microsoft. We picked to run a platform which is software as a service, so it's all fully cloud-based. With Microsoft for obviously their credentials in the cybersecurity space and the trust that enterprises have got in Microsoft for helping secure technology platforms. So that partnership's fantastic. We basically have a number of modules within the platform to help companies with audit, certification, risk assessment, vendor management, asset identification, or classification, should I say, risk management and compliance. So as you know, in the cyberspace, there's so many regulations, standards, ISO 27001, Nist cybersecurity framework, CMMC, on it goes. And, that's a lot of content. And our system is really unique in the fact that all of that content's baked into the platform. So consultants and, end customers don't have to sit and trawl through the web and work out what the underlying requirements are. They've got it in the system, and then they can quickly get about putting in place their policies and control sets and risk assessments in the system very quickly.
And the AI sort of machine learning aspect of it as well. What's that doing?
Yeah. So,
otherwise, I see it as a dashboard, and you can kind of say, okay, we're following this standard, and this is where we're at, and this is kind of our sort of roadmap to compliance, so to speak,
right,
or auditing, and it's kind of guiding you with sort of a task list as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a cyber governance, risk and compliance platform. It helps companies implement their information security management systems really effectively. The artificial intelligence capability, we call that Haley. Haley is the artificial intelligence engine in the platform. We started work on that actually with a team of PhDs back, would have been 18 months, right at the very start of our journey. And our objective with that AI platform was to help organizations identify similarities across these different standards, right? Typically, they've got huge amounts of overlap. Some are industry specific, some are, jurisdiction specific, some are global. Companies inevitably find themselves needing to implement one or many of those different standards, right? The challenge is if you go and implement them one by one, you'll end up doing the same amount of work again and again and again because there's, significant overlap. So what the artificial intelligence engine does is identifies the similarities across those different standards and creates linkages. And anyone in the cybersecurity space would know and is probably very familiar with the traditional spreadsheet that people carry around to help manage this. And basically, Haley replaces the need for that spreadsheet, does that all in the system, and then allows you to quickly undertake compliance risk assessments or define policies or control sets off the back of it.
Okay, and as I said, there's a range. I'm at the website, so it's 6clicks.io, and just as a use case, you've got modern slavery here. Maybe talk us through it. Is it pulling regulations that might be related to the business, or do you have to go out and pick those as to what it does?
Right. We've got, there's a number of the primary use cases for the platform are related to cybersecurity and privacy. Obviously, they're massive topics, and we've got a huge amount of content in the platform to support that requirement. We've also got content to support a number of other use cases, namely, as you said, modern slavery. So the modern slavery legislation is baked into the platform. You can undertake vendor risk assessments related to your supply chain using the system and have all that traced back to the underlying legislation. So we have a number of those other use cases, but our primary focus, as I said, is cybersecurity and privacy.
Nice. Okay, well, let's talk about the money and where you've gone, because it's you've been around, as you say, 2 years, but really just coming into the 12 months sort of in the market. Who's backing you? And obviously they are going to drive this and help you. How much assistance do you need? As you say, former digital, chief digital officer with KPMG.
Yeah.
So you've pretty got international connections anyway. What's the plan with the 5 mil? And you've obviously sort of quite based here now in Australia.
Yeah.
What markets are you looking at or might already be at?
Sure. So just on the funding, as I said before, we were oversubscribed for this round very quickly in about a week. One of our lead investors is Luke Sayers, who's the former chief executive officer of PwC.
Yep.
Luke and a number of other sort of pretty high-profile leaders in the Australian business community have been investors and continue investors in the previous round and the round that we just closed. So we've got tremendous support there, and we're getting interest pretty consistently every week, or just about every day at the moment, from venture capital firms around the world, including the US, to sort of follow on and invest, give it some more fuel to sort of move even faster. So that's great.
Have you had a startup like this before? Because hang on, hang on to hang on to your seat because it's going to be a wild ride, right?
Actually, right back at the very start of my career, at the end of the 90s, I founded a business. It was basically an online CRM. Back in those days, this is pre-SaaS. We took a CRM system, we stuck it in a data center, we raised, set that up, charged people by the month per user. So back at the time, we're sort of pretty forward thinking. So I've done that, and another business that I founded a few years ago, Device Test. But this is really exciting.
Great, Greg. I can see you in the background, mate. I'll bring you on after this interview. So thank you. Where are you at now? Is this? Do you find, because it's always a good story here from the Australian aspect of what do you do when you've got a sort of a winner like this? Yeah. Do you have to go to the US? How do you find the market? Are you going to keep sort of trying to run it from Australia? And does COVID impact on that as well?
Yeah, well, I mean, we've actually grown the majority of it, well, just about all of our business during the COVID time, right? So we're very familiar with video conferencing.
COVID native, you would be called.
COVID native, exactly. That's exactly the sort of and we've grown our team from probably half a dozen 18 months ago to now 35, 40 people. So we've done all of that, the recruitment, the growth, the product development, obviously sales and market expansion. But we set up at the end of last year in the US. So we've got Josh, who heads up our US operations, who's based in DC, Washington, DC. We've got Laura, who heads up our UK operations, who's based in London. And so we've got a growing footprint in those markets. Things are going really well. We'll continue to invest in those markets pretty heavily because obviously the size of them and they sort of they're a natural extension of what we've done here locally, and hopefully we can replicate that success. So that's partially where we're spending the $5 million. The other area of investment is obviously in our products, right? So we've got a very rapid release strategy. We release new features and capabilities just about every week. Yeah. So a very contemporary technology platform. So we'll continue to do that, double down on artificial intelligence, which the roadmap for that is fantastic. Solving some other sort of related big problems. The whole idea is to try and help businesses get more mature when it comes to their cybersecurity programs quicker. And we give them everything they need to do that.
How much development is left into the product as well? Do you see a lot of scope for that? Because you look like you're pretty well covered.
Yeah, I think, look, we've sort of got to the end of last year. It's a good question, great question, Chris, because we got to the end of last year and we sort of felt that we've, established a really good foundation, right? Like 99% of the stuff that the features and the content that businesses need to uplift cybersecurity programs we've got. It's now about making it easier and faster and quicker and, building smarts into the technology. It's the technology layer. So artificial intelligence, the Haley platform represents about half of our product development investment. So half our resources are committed to, further growth in that space.
Is that a potential spin-off as well, where you can reapply that tool into other platforms? Yeah. Right.
Look, I think so. I mean, Haley's been trained at the moment on the cybersecurity nomenclature. So what's really important about these sorts of AI engines is, at the core of them is natural language processing, which allows the machine to understand the written language and make sense of it, I guess. But you need to train those sorts of models in a particular domain, right? Cybersecurity's got its own language and meaning that people understand, but we need to do that for other areas, right? So we're in the process of training Haley at the moment on privacy, and so we'll then have cybersecurity and privacy really well covered. And then, of course, we can expand out that capability into other areas as well.
Is it an RPA? Is that the right term? Robotic process automation?
No, it's primarily the two technology sets that we use are natural language processing, so understanding the language, and machine learning, which is identifying patterns or similarities. So working out, as I said before, the similarities between ISO 27001 and, Nist cybersecurity framework as an example.
Okay. There's a couple of questions. One, are you doing much in physical security? I see you've got asset and compliance registers. That's like an asset management system.
Right.
But are you doing anything in terms of physical security as well?
Yeah, it's a really good. We have a huge amount of interest at the moment related to critical infrastructure. As you know, there's a lot of risk that exist out there, or vulnerabilities that exist out there in relation to physical infrastructure. And our platform can be used to help manage the programs that help secure those environments, right? So critical infrastructure legislation or cybersecurity legislation is on its way, as you know. We get inquiries about how consultants can use our platform to help their clients secure those sorts of environments just about every day, as well as inquiries directly from those end organisations. So I think that's going to be an increasing theme, certainly around critical infrastructure.
That's a good one. Maybe we'll finish off with that. So let's say we've got new legislation coming through, like the Critical Infrastructure Act. How does that happen in terms of this platform, and what's the process that you go through? Because again, as an end user, there's new legislation coming through. I shouldn't have to think about it, and this system should tell me where my compliance gaps might be.
So the key thing is, I mean, this legislation, if you can just sort of is typically published by the government in some sort of PDF document or something like that online, right?
Yeah.
So the first thing we do, which is sort of big area of value proposition for the system, is we take all of that content, we ingest it in, so we make it available within the system at a click of a button, all broken out into the individual requirements that companies need to address. It then allows them to map that underlying legislation to their existing control framework, or run compliance assessments to say, how do we comply with what's being asked of us as part of this legislation? So that's a huge benefit, right? Otherwise, you've got to do all these things on a desktop with cutting and pasting bits and pieces from Word documents and using spreadsheets and all that kind of thing. So we enable that, and obviously then with Haley, we can find similarities between the critical infrastructure legislation and other legislation or standards or frameworks out there.
Okay, very good. Well, look, it's, as I mentioned, 6clicks.io, worth checking out. They've just raised $5 million and sort of expanding into the US and the UK. Are you getting assisted with the Australian government, Austrade, or anything like that through?
Yeah, we've been working with those guys. I mean, there's sort of regular opportunities for working at it, like how do you export technology and make that efficient and get support. So we're actually interested in further support from them just to help us scale. But we just announced our funding, so I'm sure that'll come in due course.
Nice. And as Duncan commented earlier, Xero for risk and compliance, I like it, and is a good one. And thanks, Eddie. Very relevant topic. Well done. I'll bring that up so at least someone's listening. That's the main thing.
Oh, that's right.
Anthony. I just lost my last.
Thanks,
I just lost my train of thought on where we were going. Actually, yeah. No, I did have one more question to sort of finish off with. But look, thank you so much, Anthony. It's a good one. What is that pipeline? What's your sort of 12 to 18 month pipeline? How long will the money last? And then are you looking at sort of a listing or an acquisition?
Yeah, I think we'll probably, I mean, look, we've got sufficient runway to grow in the way that we expect to grow over the next 12, 18 months. That said, I think, this market is really underserved. Most people are using spreadsheets, Word documents, and cybersecurity programs and manuals. So if we can, I mean, I suspect we'll raise again before the end of this calendar year. We might look at a listing or something along those lines out in 2022, 2023. But, we see tons of upside and opportunities to help businesses and advisors.
Interesting. Do you have a relationship with Xero out of that?
It's funny you say that. I know Steve Vamos, or I had the opportunity to meet Steve, and about 10 or 15 years ago, and sort of stayed in touch very loosely over the years. But I'm sure it's occasionally mentioned to me that we should talk to them, but we're not in a rush there. I just think the analogy helps people understand kind of what we do and how we do it. So
yeah, well, I can see like an accounting system and a compliance kind of system like this would be interesting. And that last question came back to me. The 6clicks, where did that name kind of come from? Did you start with 6clicks, and I'm sure there's a few more now?
Right. Well, we actually, where I'm sitting right now, we were, in the very early days of thinking about the platform. We wanted to make sure it was really easy to use, right? Like, a lot of this software is pretty clunky and old school and not particularly easy. And so we thought, what can we do to streamline the assessment process? We wanted to make sure it was less than 6 clicks to actually initiate or get an assessment ready to be sent out within an organization or to a third party. And so we thought, let's call the business that, because it represents mission to make this stuff really easy for businesses and advisors.
I like it. Nice and simple, great logo too, and memorable. So, Anthony Stevens, founder and CEO of 6clicks, thanks for joining us, and best of success. We'll have you on next time you raise a hell of a lot of money. Good on you, mate. Thank you very much. I'll let you go. Cheers.
Yes,
thanks.
Bye-bye.
Okay, and gents, I'm going to bring you on in the background. We're going to cross to the US. I don't know where we're going. We haven't even had a pre-discussion interview, but I'm going to bring on Gregg Ostrowski, Regional CTO with Cisco's AppDynamics. Gregg, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me on.
Great. And Stephen Elliot, Program Vice President with IDC. Stephen.
Hi, great to be here.
Great. Where are you guys? Which part of the US?
I'm in New Jersey.
Okay, nice. And Stephen?
I'm outside of Boston, Massachusetts.
Beautiful. Okay, very good.
We're practically neighbors.
Fair enough. Well, you are next door to each other right there on the screen. That's good. So, look, we're going to dive into application-led security and AppSec Market Insights. I think, Gregg, we'll start with you.
Sure.
How long has AppDynamics been with Cisco? Is this kind of a new thing? Did I miss something? Because, go.
Yeah, so Cisco's acquired AppDynamics roughly about 4 years ago.
Right.
And we've been a very strategic asset inside of Cisco, because we provide that application intelligence. So if you kind of look at Cisco's marketplace, there are networks and infrastructure and security, and the application piece, we fit in beautifully as a nice complement to the overall suite of products.
Right, and it's interesting that Cisco's kept the brand as well, rather than just sucking you into a big company like that. As you say, where did AppDynamics come? You've been around for a while, I take it.
Yeah, AppDynamics has been around for about 11 years. Yeah. I've been with the company now for 3 as a regional CTO. Prior, I was a vice president for enterprise services, where I ran a big development team and had exposure to AppDynamics and saw the value that it brought for me as we were building product for our customers. That gave us that full lens. So it was a nice move for me to get into the software side, and I kind of explain is I'm helping people make their applications better at this point in time. Yeah.
Okay, and I won't mention any of your competitors, but I've got a few in mind as well. But you're assisting with that code development in the applications, code security, all that type of thing, and a lot of that is automated as well now.
Yeah. So if you kind of look at the market that we're in, or the environment that we're in overall, and you see the way that the application space has really dominated how businesses are starting to function. And, it's like an evolution. Like the whole, you remember there was an app for that back in 2007, right? So it was a matter of, you go around looking for an application. You might be walking somewhere. Let's see if they have an app. Maybe not. Now it's you have your suite of applications and you depend on them for your life, like it's the way you have to function. And I think we had done a previous research, and it shows that the first thing, like more than half of the people when they wake up, the first thing they do is they check their phone versus having a relationship or having a conversation with someone else. So that's how dependent we are. So you kind of look where AppDynamics comes in, and I should say, the user experience is obviously critical. Yep. If you can't deliver a high performing application, you're going to lose your customer. And then on the backside, the application topology or the infrastructure of the application has gotten very complex as you've gone to from off-prem to the cloud to hybrid cloud, multi-cloud, what have you. And by us giving you that overall view, correlating to the business, you now have the ability of being able to find out where the problems are before the user does.
So
Now,
you
that's
do
where
focus more on the app performance rather than the app development as well, or do you loop back into app development?
So we covered both. So we started off as an app performance monitoring tool. Now we've added AI capabilities into it so that we can start to ingest content, provide analytical data so that you can make the right decisions, but also correlate it to the business user. So the business user can have a dashboard that shows them the revenue that's coming in from the application, if there's an outage, or the revenue at risk.
Yeah.
And then also the folks on the development side, because we can show you through a component called the user journey map, we can show you what the real usage of the application is. Then you understand where to prioritize from a development standpoint, add into your CI/CD pipeline and think along those lines to help improve the application, not just understand the performance and fix issues.
Okay.
So
how many what's the sort of ballpark? How many applications are you being applied to? How big is you? And we'll come over to Stephen shortly, I suppose, on the sort of broader market. But where's AppDynamics sitting in the market?
Oh, we're a leader in the APM business. I mean, I couldn't
You're
even
number
tell you
one,
how many
I believe. Yeah.
There's so many applications that we help instrument and help provide the insights to. I couldn't even venture a guess. It's a very large number.
All right. Well, let's move over to Stephen. Stephen, thanks for joining us. Maybe your role, you've got quite a broad role looking at the market, but obviously you've been brought in with this one with AppDynamics and the announcement. And the announcement was the first solution for strengthening security posture against threats while achieving peak application performance. So it was definitely that application-led security approach that AppDynamics had. Where do you see this in the market in terms of is it a game changer, or is it just an extra feature that's a good to have?
Yeah, so the enterprise IT organizations we advise, as they've moved from waterfall, now adding agile, after agile, now adding DevOps, cultural changes and principles. Now we're seeing the emergence of DevSecOps.
Yeah,
and really there's this wave growing where, a lot of the things that Gregg just mentioned, you're seeing the transformation of not just operations teams, but development teams. And you're seeing this idea of, someone has to own not only the observability, the performance of the application services, the old mantra, if you write the service, you run the service.
Yeah.
But increasingly these teams, especially the shift left, lean forward organizations, are now thinking, well, if we have an opportunity to re-engineer, to innovate how we develop, how we manage, how we think about system reliability of a service, why not think about how we do security? And so we're finding that, and this is, it's easy for the three of us to talk about. It's hard in real life to execute. Yeah. And so, you have these disparate teams, particularly when you're talking, security teams who really, it's security, we own that. It doesn't matter what security means, they own it. And we're finding out that there's a lot of folks that are now rethinking, how do you apply security? How do security executives and teams work with development and app support and operations teams to actually drive a better security posture, right? So there's all these waves that are coming of transformation. And of course, last year with COVID and the pandemic globally, we saw a lot of acceleration of many of these conversations, right? And what happened was we're finding that because every customer engagement has essentially changed for just about every business. And that's all really residing on the digital services that we all rely on now, right? We're all working from home at some point. And so now we're finding that these business conversations are now, the business executives are getting involved saying, well, wait a second here. We're doing all this great work. We're transforming how we engage with customers. We have an organization that has to be resilient, both in terms of pulling back, in terms of, potential things that the different verticals and companies have had to pull back, and then move forward and accelerate areas where businesses have actually benefited from the pandemic. And so, all this is driving a discussion, of which, hey, we're going to reinvent how we think about application development, performance observability. Well, let's think about what that means in terms of a security posture. Are there opportunities to improve security? And this is, one of the ways vulnerability management is one of the themes that we're seeing, crop up more and more early in these conversations as security executives and managers, app support teams, development and ops teams come together and start thinking about, how do they innovate on security and how do they better collaborate, right? What are the right teams? What are the right mechanisms to drive better collaboration so that, problem identification, threat detection can be driven more succinctly and faster.
Yeah, well, it does come to, I mentioned at the start, and we're doing this episode next week with our e-safety commissioner. So they talk about safety by design, and we need to get into that security by design. So if the applications are, as you say, DevSecOps, and potentially in that order rather than DevOpsSec at the end, it's too late. And there has been discussions around whether it should be SecDevOps, so security should be first. But what type of performance? Maybe we'll come back to where the security and the vulnerability assessments come in. But the performance monitoring of an application, say in the stack as well, because whether it's network performance impacting, how much insights do you get into that performance? Is it at the device level all the way through to server and network level as well?
So what we'll do is we'll give you performance data that shows the full stack of the application.
Yeah.
So and that's the minute, and the way we operate is we basically provide transactional based monitoring. So we follow every single step along the way, every single dependency that application needs to touch. So whether it's the JVM that it's running on, the server that it's running on, the cloud environment, whether it's a Kubernetes cluster that you may be running through, on-premise databases, maybe an Oracle database, will show you every single hop along the way. And then when there's an alert that pops up, you'll be able to drill down and get right down to the root cause. So you'll be able to see that, there's been a database call that's been lagging, causing you the issue, or even the line of code that's making the improper call so that somebody could quickly find that. Nice. We released a capability, what we refer to as the Cognition Engine, that allows us to automate that root cause analysis phase so that a person gets the alert, will detect an anomaly, a person will get the alert and it'll give them, this is the suspected issue and this is what the potential fixes are. And then you can build some actioning in there to automate the repair of that. So it's a pretty elaborate system, but it's very simple for somebody to understand and take advantage of.
And things like updates and, if you're fixing those vulnerabilities, you can just push that out, relatively straightforward as well, yeah?
Yeah, and it will automatically update our view. So even if, that's the one thing we always kind of joke about, the only constant, is the fact that everything changes. Yeah. So the same thing with your application, right? So a developer may add another microservice to the application. We'll automatically detect that and see that in our flow map so that it's always an up-to-date topology of the application.
Nice. Stephen, in terms of that market insights in AppSec, where does it sort of sit in that? I've mentioned the stack as well in terms of the development of this and the market overall, sort of the growth that you're seeing in this, because as you say, we're talking to AppDynamics, which is market number one. How many are in this space, and in terms of where they're all sort of heading, I suppose, in terms of the systems that they have and the capabilities that they have?
Yeah, sure. So we have an hour, right?
Yeah. Well, no, we've got 10 minutes, mate.
Let's see, summary. So the overall sort of performance observability market is a very solid, very good market to be in right now. Double-digit top-line growth. There's two or three key leaders who are driving really good growth and opportunities for large enterprise customers. You have emerging leaders coming up through acquisitions or through combination of different functionalities we're trying to put together. And so it's a dynamic market, highly competitive. I'd say hyper competitive. And you've got different companies taking advantage of their go-to-market strategies and channels and partnerships that some have and some don't. and you have others sort of executing on different pricing mechanisms, as well as different types of product acquisition strategies.
Do you find they do get swallowed up? Like if they do come out with a good innovation, and they might be sort of moving up the ranking, they'll get acquired, a little bit like, say, Cisco taking over an AppDynamics, or they are a good plug-in for other companies?
Yeah, there's a combination of things. Certainly the Cisco AppDynamics was one of the early, the largest sort of pure play deal in the space thus far. You've got other companies that have made larger deals, but it was a group of products. Acquisition, sort of a string of pearls acquisition strategy that other companies have pulled off. And then, of course, you have other little companies that pop up that sometimes get acquired to fill a gap for observability vendors. So a combination of factors there. The net of it is, I just had a call the other day with a large enterprise client, and they're looking for, observability tool.
Yeah.
And trying to think about, what are the key functions that they need? Do they need digital experience management? Do they need logging? Do they need what type of analytics do they need? How do the architectures work? And so it's a good market to be in. A lot of growth, a lot of excitement, regardless of the region of the world. And I think part of it too, these are the tailwinds of what the pandemic has brought, and it's really about, if your services aren't reliable, and let's face it, it's extraordinarily hard to drive 100% reliability for any company.
Yeah.
Not to say it's impossible, but you better have an open checkbook if you think it's impossible.
Yeah.
Then, you really need to have this type of capability as a foundation to, your modern application strategy.
And those customers are hard to get back if they decide to go elsewhere. Before I come back to Gregg, and Gregg, I will ask that question of, is it modularized in terms of how you roll out your sort of monitoring tool and performance tool? Can you sort of pick it and sort of the pricing models? But what would say the top sort of 3 and 4 market leaders be, Stephen? Cisco's not paying for this. We can mention other brands.
Yeah, so I would say we've got market share data forecast all around this. Cisco AppDynamics, you've got Dynatrace, you have New Relic. You have a traditional sort of Splunk has entered the market.
Yeah.
$1 billion of acquiring companies there. I would say you've got CA Broadcom has a historical sort of pool there. So typically when we're looking at enterprise accounts and they're bringing us, who we're looking at, particularly for this space, you look at Cisco AppDynamics, Dynatrace, New Relic are 3 pretty common ones. Splunk's popping up more and more because of their install base in the logging side, and lesser so to security, but certainly a logging side. And they've spent over $1 billion acquiring assets. And then you have this sort of traditional CA, now Broadcom story. There's a number of other ones out there, but I would say, those are sort of some of the ones that are pretty common.
Well, and it's a good fit, obviously, for Cisco, just through the networking infrastructure that you've got out there as well. It's a normal, straight fit.
Well, I would say, you look at Cisco and obviously the rationale behind the acquisition 4 years ago. This is a total gap. They didn't have anything in it. Chuck Robbins is taking the company more towards software, SaaS capabilities, analytic capabilities. And so, Cisco with AppDynamics now can take advantage of the security portfolio and posture that the company has. They can take advantage of the networking expertise and get, all data from these pockets. And utilize their strengths to drive, a great customer experience for their customers. So, there's a lot of advantages. There's some pretty strong rationale in terms of why Cisco did that deal and why they pay that premium.
Yeah.
And then also things that AppDynamics has been doing pretty well to take advantage of the Cisco superstructure in terms of go-to-market, in terms of pricing, in terms of integrations with the broader network and security portfolio. So you're seeing things that are being executed that, as an outsider, as an analyst covering it, you're like, oh, that's good. That's good strategic and sound thinking.
Absolutely, yeah. We've been going. I didn't go the year before to Cisco Live, so we've worked with Cisco over the years. In fact, I missed out on my trip to San Francisco thanks to COVID last year, and we were going to go with the Cisco team. So I was spewing a week before, got cancelled. Damn it! But in fact, we'll start with that, Greg, as well. What's happening with Cisco Live in 2021? But coming back to my first question, how well do you modularize this in terms of you roll it out on your application?
Yeah,
do you get the full dashboard, or you can sort of turn it on and off as to what suits?
Yeah, so typically we operate best in production. So folks roll this out to typically the mission critical applications first, and it's an agent-based model. So you roll out per whatever language you're using, if it's Java or .NET or Python, what have you, roll out the agents specific to the language. The cool thing that we did around the secure application launch is we actually included that in the existing agent. So when somebody wants to turn on the runtime vulnerability that we're offering, you literally just check a box and it's now enabled. As long as you upcharge the license, you get that runtime vulnerability included in the application.
Right.
So for somebody to roll out, it's generally done, we start off with one application or two applications that are mission critical, and then it just proliferates throughout the organization because the value that they gain pretty quickly is pretty vast there. So, but that's the ultimate, way we go about there.
And maybe one question on the vulnerabilities. Let's say a CVE comes out and is kind of announced. Is the system automatically picking up sort of new vulnerabilities and exploits and then applying that in the stack?
Yeah, so the beauty of that, the way it works is, because we collaborated with Cisco's security business, pretty massive security business to say the least. And we're able to then, being that we're already in the runtime, because that's how our agents operate, we're already in the runtime, we're then able to understand every vulnerability that could possibly be tied in there. And if one gets exposed, we can action upon that. So, it's nice to have the visibility into a threat, but the best part is being able to action upon that, where you can either notify or you can even block the culprit in the stream.
Yeah.
And by doing so, and you kind of go back to my earlier comments about the users being so fickle. Well, if performance is one thing, but if you have a breach and now their data is at risk, it's almost like you lost their trust.
Yep.
Right? So that's how we kind of view this as being really keen for us to offer that real-time runtime vulnerability threat detection.
And you get visibility all the way down into the users, but sort of usability of the app as well.
Did I lose you guys?
No, you still all good? You come across okay? Can you hear me okay?
Now we can.
Sorry, a bit of a delay there. So, yeah, how much insights do you get down to that user level? You can see down to that user level as to what the users are doing individually on the app as well?
Yeah, we'll provide you have end user monitoring that'll show you, if they're on a specific mobile device, version of the mobile device, browser, version of the browsers, and be able to understand down to an end user level so that you can actually specify if you have a high profile VIP, you want to make sure that person has the top notch. You can see that specific person and understand what their experience is like. Or you can have it broken out to a segment if you have a group of people that you want to have. What is that? The 80-20 rule.
Yeah.
20% of your users
principle.
are 80% of your revenue, right? So you can target that group and then provide a really nice dashboard so that all folks can look at it, whether it's an executive, app owner, or even going down to the development teams and what have you.
And I take it you can do that for geolocation as well, certain countries or even cities, yeah?
That's right, yeah. So, and actually we had Cisco acquired a company called Thousand Eyes, which provides that network visibility. So by bringing that together with AppDynamics, we can actually see if there's an issue all the way down to the ISP.
Wow.
So if you're working from your house in Australia and your ISP goes down and you're complaining that the application is not working, we can actually see that you have an issue at your network from a public network, from an ISP standpoint.
I mean, that's really important, isn't it? Because it might not be the application at all. It could be, as you say, that ISP level. Look, thank you so much for that. We could, as you say, Stephen, we could have gone for a full hour, but these sort of media releases come across my desk, so it's the opportunity, and it's always good to cross over to the US and hear a US accent for a change. Greg, what's with the Cisco? Do you have much to do with Cisco? Like, are you part of Cisco and say Cisco Live? What's 2021 looking like?
Yeah, so we have we're obviously going to be a virtual event again this year. So we have Cisco Live kicking off as a global event. We have a part of it, obviously being part of AppDynamics. We also have our own event kicking off at the end of February called Transform 2021. That's an AppDynamics driven event. So there's a couple things going on that you can attend, and being that it's virtual,
that's right.
No excuses, I guess.
Yeah, well, Cisco Live they might just have the one. Normally, it's held in March here in Melbourne, and again, that got cancelled. In fact, Cisco just cancelled everything last year, I think, and then went virtual. So, look, gents, thank you so much for that. The announcement was put onto our chiefit.me channel, and it's great to have a sort of a deep dive into app security and the market insights. So thank you very much, Stephen Elliot, Program Vice President, and Gregg Ostrowski, Regional CTO with Cisco AppDynamics. And they asked me to change the logo. I had the Cisco logo. They said, no, wrong one. So AppDynamics, part of Cisco. So got to get it right. Gents, thank you so much. Appreciate your time. I'll go, Greg. Yeah.
I just want to give you one little thing to notice on. So whenever you want to tell that somebody's from the eastern side of the United States, notice how Steve and I both talked with our hands.
That's right. Well, look, and thank you. What's it Thursday evening there? So thank you so much for extending your day. Do enjoy your evening and pleasure. And we'll try and have you on into the future as well. I'll stay sort of watch out for your announcements.
Thank you.
Take care.
Good on you. Thanks, guys. See you later.
Bye.
Okay, that was Gregg Ostrowski, Regional CTO, Cisco AppDynamics, and Stephen Elliot, Program Vice President with IDC, looking at the application-led security with obviously AppDynamics application and the AppSec Market Insights. So look, just to finish off, as we do, the report of the day was ESET 3 Threat Report, Quarter 4 for 2020. There's some, it's quite well put together, this one with ESET, and we do have ESET, the free course, the cybersecurity course on the marketplace as well. But just some insights into a range of different threats, but that one there is the web threats that you can check out as well. So that's on the marketplace as well. And then this just came out this morning. I don't think it's even on the marketplace yet. We'll put it up, but otherwise you can go to Nist. So the Nist report 8276, Key Practices in Cyber Supply Chain Risk Management. And this lends back to our episodes, or our recent cybersecurity episodes, certainly, where we looked at the supply chain on semiconductors. So certainly this one there. And there's some key practices there, particularly if you're a large enterprise, large organization, the key practices for your supply chain, your cybersecurity supply chain, and your risk management. In fact, that might get led into 6clicks, might have that in their system as well. As I mentioned last week, I mentioned it on Tuesday, we're coming out with a little bit of a merchandise range in our Cyber Wars series, just to get that cybersecurity awareness sort of up. I'm wearing mine today. The Russia Bear, and in fact, some recent news out this week. If I can put my hands on it, no, I've lost it. In terms of Palo Alto Unit 42 with a new APT, a new Bear APT. So I'll put the link in the show notes for that one too, but there's a new announcement in relation to that. Okay, so we'll be back on Tuesday with Julian McGrant, the eSafety Commissioner, talking about online safety and public awareness, particularly the international trends and safety by design. And we'll have a look at the sort of the gaming platforms and child safety and some of the very troubling behaviour that's happening on these platforms, particularly with our kids. So something to be aware of. And that's it for us. So please enjoy your Friday and have a great weekend. And we'll be back.